Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. I am your host, Lucas Drega, Solutions Specialist here at AgilePoint, and thank you so much for joining me today. Now I'm looking forward to presenting to you this session, getting started with low to no code, but we're still seeing a few of your colleagues dialing in, so let's give them another moment before we get started. All right, thank you for your patience everyone. And for those of you who are just joining us, welcome to Getting Started with No to Low Code. As most of you are probably aware, this is an incredibly hot segment of the market, and I'm really looking forward to sharing with you how AgilePoint can help your organization navigate the complex waters of digital transformation and be your partner that helps deliver customer-centric organizational agility and to future-proof your application development strategy. Now, before we get started here, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. For one, you've probably noticed that this is a webinar session, and as such, your lines have been muted. That being said, we do want to encourage interaction, and the best way to do that is through the questions panel in your Zoom console. Now, if we don't get a chance to answer your question throughout the course of the webinar, we have 10 minutes set aside at the end to go over those questions as a group. As far as the flow of today's webinar is concerned, there will be two major components. Up front, I'll go through a few brief slides. I know that a number of you are speaking with AgilePoint for the first time today, so we'll take a moment to introduce the company, our technology, and a few of the concepts that you'll see over the course of our discussion. After the slides, I'll give you a sense of what's possible. We'll go through a few demos of the different types of applications you can build from a single, very versatile AgilePoint platform, all without writing a single line of code. So what is AgilePoint, and why should I care? I would imagine there's a few of you thinking this at this very moment. Well, if you keep up with the analysts like Forrester and Gartner, you know that you're probably already aware that there's a skills gap in most organizations. That most businesses simply don't have enough resources to deliver the sheer amount of software that their business requires. Process applications, single page or CRUD apps, mobile, as well as applications that leverage IoT or are driven by machine learning. And the reason for this is simple. Coding these applications often requires a highly specialized and often quite costly skill set. On the other hand, many organizations desire the ability to pivot at a moment's notice, to rapidly change how they run their business to capture increased market share, and be more responsive to their internal and external customers. Now, it's with that in mind that many of our customers view AgilePoint as the application development standard for all application types, for the simple fact that it enables developers of varied skill sets, that is, those that are less technical and those that are more technical, to contribute to more of the application development process. The large pre-built library of user interface components, process logic, and no-code data integration means that AgilePoint is easy enough to use by a business analyst and also offers the high control and extensibility features favored by professional developers. All of this drives to AgilePoint's singular goal of enabling organizations to build your anything and accelerate your transition to becoming a digital business. Now, Because a few of you are speaking with us for the first time today, let's spend a moment talking about AgilePoint as an organization. Now, when AgilePoint was founded back in 2003, our two founders had amassed extensive experience in Java-based business process management, which is great if you have the world's most complex problems to solve, a large team, and an even larger budget to solve those problems. It was their objective to take that power and flexibility and to port it into a platform that can be leveraged by all developer types. And as you can see, that vision has really caught on. As of today, there are roughly 1,600 customers that trust AgilePoint for their most mission-critical application needs, which span every industry sector and vertical and every continent across the globe. Our customers have a presence in 28 countries, so it was important for us to have an office in every major population center so that our customers get the support they need in their local time zone and in your local language. Now briefly, I'm going to share a cross-section of those 1,600 customers, and as you're seeing, some of the largest brands rely on AgilePoint, as well as many other small and medium businesses. The fact of the matter is, regardless of your organization's size, everyone can benefit from AgilePoint's ability to break down organizational and data silos and provide innovative experiences that wow your customers wherever they might be. Now, there are a number of compelling statistics and logos on screen, but the most eye-catching, in my opinion, is enabling our customers to succeed where they've previously failed in their digital transformation efforts. Due to AgilePoint's unique architecture, compelling developer experience for both citizen and professional developers alike, more than 65% of AgilePoint's current customer base have come to us after having failed with another platform. But you don't need to just take my word for it. In fact, it's been that commitment to relentless innovation and an affordable pay-as-you-grow licensing model that has garnered AgilePoint significant coverage from the analyst community. In fact, it's only AgilePoint that appears across the 4 industry reports shown on screen. And to help illustrate the versatility of this platform, consider the different types of development covered among these 4 reports. On the left-hand side, we have replacing traditional Java or C# based development as a low-code platform, and also having the ability to handle enterprise-grade process activities in both the IPPMS report and AgilePoint's leadership position in the Digital Process Automation report. And we'll talk more about that in just another second here. So this is a huge point of pride for AgilePoint. Just about a year ago, AgilePoint was named a leader in this emerging category of digital process automation for wide deployment. Now, I know a number of you are probably wondering what this means. So in short, it takes the process excellence capabilities of enterprise-class BPM and provides a modern low-code architecture. Forrester views this segment as a crucial capability to not only accelerate, but to deliver a sustained digital transformation that is pervasive across the organization. And really the reason that platforms like AgilePoint are enabling this, right, is that ability to bring all developer types into the fold and to enable them to build more from an application development perspective. Whereas previously, business process management was primarily focused around the automation of a few core back-end processes, many organizations today are realizing to deliver a compelling customer experience, they need to automate every step of the customer journey and automate every step of the processes that support their customers. Okay, so let's spend a moment here talking about some of the impacts that an AgilePoint will have on your business. Right? This is some great research from Salesforce from a couple of years back. Right? And a lot of these we'll talk to over the course of the conversation today, but I'd like to pick just a few. Right? For one is the ability to increase the business partnership with IT. Right? And I know this is a challenge that many of you on the line have seen over the years, where the business puts forth a list of requirements that is then handed over to IT, who has to translate those requirements into compiled code. Oftentimes, there ended up being a large disconnect. Right? What IT ultimately delivered and what the business asked for are often two very different things. And it all comes down to this translation of requirements into compiled code. Another, and we're going to hear more on this in one of our case studies a little bit later on, is to increase the levels of innovation across the organization. Where previously the ability to create applications and innovate was relegated to just a few highly skilled developers, this is now being more democratized across the various areas of the organization. So with that in mind, right, what is AgilePoint addressing? Which problems are we solving for our customers? Well, as we've discussed, right, for one, we simply have a need for more software than we've ever seen before. As we alluded to earlier, right, typically the creation of new applications was done by a small group within IT. Those users were often put on projects that had the most strategic value to the organization or the most complex tasks. And what this left was a lot of the day-to-day applications that make work easier, applications that automate our customer supporting efforts, right? Oftentimes left those applications unbuilt and business needs unmet. We also need to customize the package software that we're using off the shelf. Right? Think about your Salesforce CRM or Dynamics, right? Of course, we can always write custom code to extend platform functionality to create new components, right? But what happens when we want to move from one CRM system to another? We're often looking at rebuilding entirely all of the custom components that we've created, adding immense technical debt and a large rebuilding, if not refactoring effort, as we're moving from one platform to another. And then, of course, with the advent of cloud and mobile apps, this further compounds the problem, right? Further adds to the application backlog that we're seeing for most organizations. So with that being said, right, AgilePoint is going to accelerate development by removing custom code entirely. Right, as you'll see later on in the presentation, lots of pre-built components, either for process logic or user interface, where I'm simply selecting the appropriate component for my use case, dragging and dropping, and then configuring it for the desired behavior. What's more, once I build all of these components, I can easily reuse them globally across a number of applications, further reducing the time to value for a new piece of software. And then lastly, and this really speaks to that ability to increase levels of innovation, right, is to empower additional developer types, right, to tap resources who may know these processes the best, but do not have coding skill sets. Of course, if we're going to expand the talent pool, we need to ensure that governance is adhered to, right, that we have guardrails and best practices defined and enable our less technical users to develop within those constraints. Effectively, taking this concept of shadow IT and bringing it into the light, enabling business and IT to innovate side by side. All of this driving towards the singular goal of accelerating your transition to becoming a digital business. Now, I've alluded to some of these case studies already, and the first one that I'd like to share with you is a great story of unlocking that potential for innovation across the organization. Now, the Salvation Army was a customer that came to us a number of years ago and wanted to re-platform from a legacy technology. It was their goal to find a new innovation platform for the next 20 years, and after looking into the market, decided that AgilePoint would be the best fit. Now, while they do have professional developers working inside of AgilePoint daily, what we have here is a great story of what can be done in the hands of a less technical user once they've learned AgilePoint. So enter our IT help desk person who had no previous development experience. And once they've learned AgilePoint, we're able to generate an incredible number of applications. In the first year, with a single user, that developer built 10 applications. In 2018, that doubled. And again doubled in 2019. Now, this is tremendous output, right? Typically, when we're talking application counts in the dozens we're talking about a team of developers. So when you consider that this is just one single individual, this is really quite compelling. The next story we have here is from one of our larger customers. This is a Fortune 50 defense contractor that you've probably seen in the news quite a bit as of late, right? And not only are they using AgilePoint to tackle the day-to-day strategic or tactical development needs, they've actually realized that the flexibility and the power that AgilePoint brings to the table is going to be a strategic enabler as they continue to pursue more mergers and acquisitions and divest areas that are not core to their business. Not only that, this customer saw such potential in our platform that they've actually entered into a revenue sharing agreement, enabling them to resell applications created by their employees. Now, the last piece that I want to touch on here before I get into the demo is talking about the different components from an AgilePoint perspective and how we cater to the different developer types. So what you're seeing on the top here, this is all AgilePoint's drag and drop and configure component of the platform. As you're seeing here, I'm given everything that I need to build, run, and continuously improve an application. By that I mean a strong integration framework so that AgilePoint fits seamlessly into your technology landscape, including components to enable less technical developers. I have lots of pre-built components for process logic, for user interface, to enable me to easily model the most complex of processes without writing a single line of code. And then for the developers in the room, an extension framework that enables you to leverage your intellectual property and your know-how to create additional no-code activities. Now, with that being said, let's jump into a demo. Okay, so I've logged into AgilePoint using my existing credentials, in this case, Azure AD, and up on screen, I have my personalized work list, all of the items that are currently assigned to me. In addition, I also have the applications that I have permission to, and then some details on my own personal productivity. So the first application type that I'd like to show you today is a CRUD app, right? A single page application. In this case, it's referred to as a form-based app in AgilePoint terminology. Now, this application is tracking information about all of my customers. As I built this application, AgilePoint has pre-created a number of views for all customers, as well as those that were recently created or modified. And it's pretty straightforward for me to capture information about a new customer. As you can see here, I can enter some data, the customer's name, their contact details, and then the specifics of their order. Or I can simply modify an existing customer record. In this case, my customer may have placed a new order. So as you can see here in this repeating structure, I can easily capture when the order was placed, the quantity, unit price, amount, and then a description of the product. Now in this case, these are all manual data entry fields, but it's quite straightforward to configure a lookup to any external system. And we have lots of great content on that on our video portal. So that gives you an example of a form-based application. We're going to take this concept and we're going to take it to the next level by the introduction of workflow. Now again, here you're seeing a responsive form. In this case, I'm going to populate this form by attaching an Excel spreadsheet. Now in some other examples, right, some of these fields might come from SAP, others from Salesforce, a few from databases, or any of the other 70 systems that AgilePoint supports off the shelf. Now to kick this process off here, I'm just going to click Submit. Now as we're going through this end user experience here, I'm going to highlight some of the different ways that we'll be notified that we have work to complete. Now in this case here, you're seeing that I've received an email notification. I have full HTML markup here. I'm bringing in dynamic data from this instance of the workflow, and I'm highlighting it to the user. Down below, you see I have a few links, one to open my task, and then one for our process viewer functionality, which shows in real time where is my workflow, what is holding it up, what is keeping it from moving forward, and for a given work item, right, who's assigned, when did it hit their desk, and when is it coming due. Now I'm going to leave this up here just so that we can see our workflow light up as the process moves forward. So I'm going to click the link to open my task. I'm playing all of the roles here within this workflow just so I don't need to log in and log out. But as you're seeing, at this step in my process, everything has been marked read-only. As a reviewer, I simply want to indicate my approval decision. Do I move it forward, or do I request some more information from the submitter? Now what's happening here next in the process is we're going to take all of the application data, we're going to merge that into a Word template, and then we will send that document for digital signature via DocuSign. Now DocuSign was just a design choice in this application. We do have support for all of the major digital signature providers. So I've just heard my inbox there, which tells me that I have my DocuSign task. As you can see here, right, all of that data from the workflow was merged into this template. Right, it's a great way to create contracts, sales quotations, right? Anytime you need document generation, AgilePoint has a very capable, comprehensive component built into the platform that comes for free. And I'll just scroll down to the bottom to place my signature. Now the next step in my workflow involves invoking robotic process automation. So I'm just going to turn on my robot, and we'll start to see RPA take over in just a moment here. So what's happening here is AgilePoint is checking for the completion of the DocuSign document, and in just another moment, we're going to pass this over to RPA. Now in this case, UiPath is going to write all of that application data first here to a WinForm, and then next to a website, right? And this is really a great example of one of those future of work scenarios, right? The ability to leverage different types of process automation to the greatest effect. Okay, so that highlights how AgilePoint can work side by side with robotic process automation, right? Effectively unifying the human and the robotic workforce. Now, the last type of application that I'm going to show you here today is a chatbot. Right, so where previously, most of the chatbots that you've seen in the past are probably quite simple, right? They ask you, when you should book a meeting with one of your customers, for instance. This is giving you a different look at the same robust process automation capabilities, only this time with a conversational interface. So first I want to address my robot, address my bot. And as you're seeing here, right, the chatbot is responding back to me, and based on the selections that I'm making here, things like my consultation length, the lawyer that I've selected, I'm going to be sent a bill to process my payment via PayPal. Now in this case here, you're seeing that it's asking me for my email address, right? And the reason behind this is I'm using this application in an unauthenticated mode, right? So a great way to bring your partners, your customers, suppliers into your business processes, enabling them to securely collaborate without needing to maintain user accounts. The best time to reach me is generally 9 a.m. And the nature of my case. Now it's going to ask me here to validate all of the selections that I've made so far. And then very shortly here, I'm going to receive a link, right, where I'll be able to input my credit card details and process my payment. All right, so there's my link. I'm going to paste this into a private browser here. And as you're seeing on screen here, right, all of the details that I gave to the bot have been passed over to AgilePoint. And then I have a segment here to input my credit card details and process my purchase. So this concludes the demo portion of the presentation today. Let's take a few questions.